Good morning, my name is Daniel Shen from B Block English, and today I'll be analyzing an excerpt from The Moral Life of Henrietta Lacks, from pages 197 to 198, on the significance of medical ethics between Henrietta's period and the modern time. So my thesis statement is, Rebecca Skloot, author of The Moral Life of Henrietta Lacks, accurately depicts the significance of medical ethics in its contrast between medical consent regulations during the period of Henrietta when it was highly disregarded by society, and the improved modern era. Some of the items I'll be including in my verbal analysis are the articles published by McQuiszick and Hsu, the federal law set up to protect patients' privacy, and the fact that the Lacks did not have an equal chance to protect their privacies in comparison with Hsuan Moore. So the theme of this excerpt is medical ethics. Medical ethics is one of the central themes of The Moral Life of Henrietta Lacks. In the 1950s, when Henrietta was diagnosed with cancer, doctors and medical researchers were not required to obtain informed consents from their patients or subjects. In addition, the consent form offered at Johns Hopkins was also vague and were not appropriately drafted. Leading on to the text and language used by Rebecca Skloot. So the major question here is, how does the society view and treat medical ethics over time? As a global issue, this excerpt targets the general public, so those who receive medical care on a daily basis. During the time of 1975, the United States were a country full of African American discriminations and segregations. So racial and social factors also led to the issue of medical ethics were not appropriately valued by the society. So for example, Henrietta Lacks, as a woman of color and lower to middle social class, she was not being valued by news article companies such as, on March 25th, 1975, Mike Rogers' Rolling Stone article acted as the first true story of Henrietta Lacks and her family. But later on, as mentioned from line 1 to line 6, many other various newspapers published articles about Henrietta, entitled "One of the Pivotal Figures in the Crusade Against Cancer." So earlier on, many newspapers companies try to portray Henrietta as a positive figure and the significance of Henrietta's role in fighting a battle against cancer. Rebecca Skloot uses a metaphor, which is crusade, to describe this holy battle against cancer, since cancer is something that humankind have been having a really hard time to figure out solutions and to make any scientific developments on. Meanwhile, Victor McQuiszick and Susan Hsu, which also published different genetic markers presented, including Henrietta Lacks, Day, and 2 other Lacks children. They were used to create a map of Henrietta's DNA that the scientists could use to help identify the HeLa cell culture. So this was the original intention of publishing their genetic information. In line 15, Skloot uses a technique of contrasting the difference in terms of time frames between 1975 and the modern era, stating that today no scientist would dream of publishing a person's name with any of their genetic information, since the scientific world knows that a lot of information can be deduced by DNA, including the risk of developing certain diseases. This could be problematic because publishing such information could lead to misunderstandings on eventually genetic discriminations. So according to Skloot uses ethos in line 18. Skloot mentioned 1996 Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So the HIPAA Act serves as a crucial tool to contrast the difference between consequences that eventually that eventually led by publishing personal medical informations. Back in Henrietta's time, medical ethics was not covered by federal oversights. It was severely ignored by the public as well as the lawmakers. Refer back to the medical ethics theme. Another act, also known as 2008 Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Acts. So, in order to protect people from losing their health insurance or employment due to genetic discriminations, this act was created recently, which is 2008. And the reason behind the creation of this act is to eventually get rid of any stigmas or any potential harm that patients might get if the company, let's say the employment company, knows a certain type of genetic information might cause disease in the future. The attitude of Skoots toward the subject of the text was mild, but it also remained authoritative with the evidence given to support the points. So in line 18 to line 20, Skoot uses both ethos and logos to include statistical numbers of fines and also ethos in order to prove the validity of Skoot's points. In conclusion, medical ethics is a global issue that no one should ignore. The text is organized and developed throughout the book, which shows the significance of medical ethics as a major theme in the story.